Chris Evert-Lloyd winning the French Open for the 7th time, and our own John Fitzgerald, partnered by Thomas Smid, eventually winning the doubles final 14-12 in the 5th set. Now it's horse racing and the third leg of the Triple Crown, the Belmont Stakes, to be run over 1.5 miles, the longest and most arduous of the Triple Crown races. Snow Chief, the world's greatest ever 3-year-old money winner, is out, but in the field is Ferdinand, surprise winner of the Kentucky Derby. OK, let's cross now to Belmont Park in New York. Our pictures come from ABC America, and your host is Jim McKay.
Belmont Stakes to be run on a sloppy track today. It's the oldest and the longest of the 3 great American classics. It was named after the Honorable August Belmont, whose family since has won the race 6 times, most recently with Caveat in 1983. The first Belmont was run at the spring meeting of Jerome Park in 1867. But it wasn't until 1905 that a new racetrack named Belmont Park opened in New York with great fanfare before a crowd of 40,000. The Belmont Stakes had already been established for a long time, since the filly Ruthless won the first running. The 1905 race, the first run at Belmont Park, also was won by a filly, Tanya, but no filly has won since. 11 Triple Crown winners have climaxed their achievement in the Belmont, starting with Sir Barton in 1919 and most recently affirmed in 1978. Man o' War never ran in the Derby, but he won the Belmont. So did Gallant Fox and 20 Grand, and Man o' War's son, War Admiral. Only 3 rivals dared test Whirlaway, Mr. Longtail, as he sped to victory and the Triple Crown in 1941. 5 years later, Assault became the first Texas-bred ever to win the Belmont. The pride of King Ranch won his own Triple Crown that day. 2 years later, another Triple Crown winner, the Great Citation under Eddie Arcaro. After Citation, it would be a quarter century before another Triple Crown winner appeared. 29 years ago, in 1957, Bill Shoemaker had his first Belmont mount, Gallant Man. Gallant Man was the winner, and the Shoemaker era was underway. In 1959, he won again with his second Belmont ride, Sword Dancer. Almost 3 decades later, Shoe is here again, trying for a record-tying 6th Belmont victory. The Belmont of 1973 will be remembered as long as thoroughbred horses keep coming to the post. After a 25-year drought, another Triple Crown winner appeared. What a champion! The Great Secretariat won by 31 lengths and set a world record that still stands. And now another Belmont. A big crowd is here, and the stage is set for another act in the continuing drama of a race that began when Andrew Johnson was President of the United States. ABC Sports presents from Belmont Park in Elmont, New York, the 118th running of the Belmont Stakes. At the moment, the rain has let up just a little bit, but it's still a very wet, dank, and sloppy-tracked afternoon at Belmont Park. There are the numbers for this race. More than $500,000 in prize money. The distance, the long 1.5 miles, and the track condition, sloppy but fast as far as time is concerned. Well, good afternoon. I'm Jim McKay reporting from Belmont Park. The Derby, of course, is Kentucky, from mint juleps to the playing of my old Kentucky home. The Preakness is Baltimore, from crab cakes to the playing of Maryland, my Maryland. And similarly, the Belmont Stakes is New York, from the cab driver's accent when he brings you out here to the playing of the sidewalks of New York, which will be coming up quite soon. There is, of course, no horse going for the Triple Crown this year, but this race, like the other 2, can very easily stand alone. Many people, in fact, think that this is the Turnus test, to ask 3-year-old horses, many of whom have already been in the Derby and in the Preakness, to come here and run that far, 1.5 miles at this early age in their careers. And 1.5 miles on this track is just once around because it's the longest race course in America. This continues to be the springtime of the senior citizen in American sport, from Jack Nicklaus to Whittingham and Shoemaker and so forth. In fact, at the breakfast here just the day before yesterday, we had 3 trainers, all of whom have horses in this race. Charlie Whittingham, age 73, Woody Stevens, 72, and Walt Kelly, who at age 79 has his first entry in the Belmont Stakes. Let's take a look right now as the odds in the race as they stand right now. The colors on the left of your screen next to the horse number, that's the saddlecloth number, indicates the colors of the racing silks that the jockey of that horse will be carrying. Bobby Forbes at 20-1, Bordeaux Bob at 16-1, and Parade Marshal at 17-1. All are long shots. Mogambo, one of the favorites, at 4-1. Personal Flag at 7-1. 5 more horses. John's Treasure at 9-2. A good deal of support for Walt Kelly's horse. Ferdinand at 9-2. And Danzig Connection at 7-1. Imperious Spirit at 55-1. But look at this. Rampage, surprisingly, is the favorite in the race at 5-2. Out on the track right now is our reporter on the track, Charles E. Canty. A little damp out there. Perhaps you, Charles, can give us a more specific report on the racetrack.
I can give you a very specific report, Jim. This track is pure T sloppy. But bear in mind that Belmont Park is a very sandy composition and it has a very firm base, and moisture only makes it faster. So the earlier races today, speed has been holding up and the times have been sprightly. It's raining pretty good. The track is not going to slow up any. It'll be quick. Back to you, Jim.
The driest of our ABC sports team today, I think, at least at the moment, will be Jack Whitaker, because he's in the jockey room with the man of the moment in many ways, the man who won the Derby at age 54, Bill Shoemaker.
Thank you, Jim. Bill, you and Ferdinand were 20 lengths out and came from behind to win the Derby. You were 14 lengths out and came second in the Preakness. Should we assume that you might not be quite that far back today?
I doubt if he'll be that far back, but again, it depends on the pace, Jack. If the pace is very fast, he'll be back, and if it's slow, he'll be laying a lot closer than he would be.
Well, no horse likes to get mud slapped in his face, does he?
No, they don't, and of course, he's never had any mud slapped in his face because he's never run in the mud, so that's an unknown thing that we'll just have to find out whether he likes it or not.
And the distance, he seems to be bred for it, though, doesn't he?
Oh, I think he'll get the trip all right.
Okay. How many sets of goggles are you going to wear?
I'm going to wear about 4.
Okay. There were a lot of rumors about him being scratched because of track conditions, but this, as Charles said, is not a slow track at all.
No, it's got a good bottom on it, Jack. The only thing that we're going to have to worry about is if he gets a hold of it and he likes it, and if he can handle the mud slapping in his face. That's the 2 problems that we worry about a little bit.
Okay, and you're going for a 6th, the record-tying 6th Belmont. Good luck. Have a safe trip.
Thank you, Jack.
All right. Once again, here's Jim McKay.
Okay, and I'm sure watching eagerly at home in California is Amanda, his little daughter, whom he greeted after winning the Kentucky Derby. We talk about the Triple Crown and what a great test it is. Why is it so hard? Why have only 11 in history been able to do it? Let's consider that. Consider the case of Alydar. In almost any year except 1978, he would have been a Triple Crown winner. But in that year, there was another colt named Affirmed, and all that spring, the 2 of them battled it out. Alydar got closer at each of the classics, but Affirmed won every time. Of almost 40,000 foals born in his year, Alydar was the best of all but one. His trainer was John Veach, and we asked him why it's so tough to win the Triple Crown.
Well, I think that you're looking at 3 unique distances in American racing, 1.25 miles, 1 mile and 3/16, and 1.5 miles, where the majority of racing in America is shorter, 3/4, 7/8, a mile and 1.8 miles. So it takes a unique horse from a standpoint of just the stamina alone. You're running at 3 different racetracks, 3 different conditions, with the shipping within a 7-week period. It's a very, very demanding physical and mental task on any horse, and it takes a very unique individual that has everything going for it, and particularly must have the most outstanding luck to win all 3.
To me, it's almost impossible to win the Triple Crown. It's too early in the year to get these horses ready. Not many of them stand up. I don't believe 25% of the horses last a year after they try for that. They've ruined more good horses trying to get them ready for those races than anything else in the world.
Years ago, they had more Triple Crown winners than they have lately, but, you know, there's, say, 50,000 foals a year now. There's a lot more competition than there used to be, and a lot more racing. We run our horses a lot harder than they did in the older days.
The last horse to have a shot at the Triple Crown when Belmont Day came around was His Majesty's son, Pleasant Colony, in 1981. His trainer was the ever-confident New Yorker Johnny Campo. He doesn't think that the job is really all that hard.
If he's a good horse, he'll win the Triple Crown. It ain't difficult at all. You know, you find excuses, but if it's a dry racetrack and everything's up to par, yeah, that's just an excuse for a trainer and an owner. You know, a good horse, always remember one thing. A good horse can run on any kind of racetrack in any place.
But it's still tough enough, John. Pleasant Colony wasn't able to do it. He finished 3rd in the Belmont. Summing was the winner that year. There's a look at the paddock, not as festive as usual in the rain, but still a beautiful sight here at Belmont Park in New York. Please set the scene a little bit. We've talked about the racetrack. We've talked about some of the trainers. What about the horses? Who are the top contenders in this 118th running of the Belmont Stakes? It's a 10-horse field, remember, but these are the ones most people are looking at. Ferdinand is the horse on center stage, winner of the Kentucky Derby, second to Snow Chief in the Preakness, trained by Charlie Whittingham, ridden by Bill Shoemaker, the wisdom of the ages. The young horse and the two elder statesmen of training and riding combined for a stunning and popular victory in the Kentucky Derby. Whittingham had the horse trained to his peak. Shoemaker came up with one of the great rides of a magnificent career. In the Preakness, Ferdinand was too far off a slow pace in the early going after a difficult start. In the Derby, he had come from last to first, but on this day, the real Snow Chief appeared, and Ferdinand had to settle for second. Can he go a mile and a half? Well, can any of them? Rampage had the roughest trip of anyone in the Derby. His trainer, Gary Thomas, started as a rodeo rider, and he might have thought he was back in that business watching what happened in the stretch at Churchill Downs. As Shoemaker, in the pink and blue silk, darts through the narrowest of holes past Broad Brush in the blue and gold, Wheatley Hall lugs in on the fading Snow Chief, effectively blocking out Rampage just at the moment the jockey Pat Day was about to make his move. Well, this caused Day to take his colt all the way around to the outside. It was an incident that would have finished most horses. We asked Pat Day if he would otherwise have won.
I feel in my heart that if Wheatley Hall wouldn't have put pressure on Snow Chief, if he'd have stayed out closer to bold arrangement, I could have gotten through on the fence, and Ferdinand would have been hunting for running room, and possibly I'd have won the race.
Well, Rampage and Day both did their best. With a most impressive late rally, they almost caught Broad Brush for third place. Rampage suffered a slight injury in the Derby. He hasn't raced since, and no horse has won the Belmont after that long a layoff in more than 30 years. He's so tough around the barn that his owner calls him Rambo. Now, Mogambo is a baffling, inconsistent horse of superior talent who failed in the Derby, then came back to finish an impressive second to Snow Chief in the Jersey Derby 2 weeks ago. Trained by Leroy Jolly, Mogambo is named after the old Clark Gable movie. In his early races, he often had a bad case of nerves and would wash out in the paddock. He seems to be over that now and turned in a sharp 5-furlong workout earlier this week. That's Mogambo. Danzig connection is Woody Stevens' hope for a 5th straight win in the Belmont. He was a prominent 2-year-old who disappointed in the Breeders' Cup, then was operated on for a bone chip. You see him winning his first stakes race just 13 days ago in the Peter Pan. He has a new rider today, Chris McCarron. John's Treasure might be a dream come true for his trainer, Walt Kelly. At age 79, Kelly never has had a horse run in the Belmont. But he believes in John's Treasure, although the horse has raced only 4 times, and this is his first appearance in a stakes race. He has the great jockey, Lafitte Pincay. Personal Flag is another running in his first stakes race. Unraced as a 2-year-old, he has raced only 4 times, but has won 3 in a row now, and trainer Shook McGahee thinks he may be ready. George Velasquez will ride him. Bobby Forbes, Bordeaux Bob, Parade Marshal, and Imperious Spirit round out the field. You know, some people think that the best 3-year-old in the country didn't run in the Derby, didn't run in the Preakness, and isn't running in the Belmont here today. He did, however, run in the 7th race here just about 25 minutes ago. His name is Ogygian. Some people call him Ogygian. Here's the call from the top of the stretch by Marshall Cassidy.
Now it's Ogygian gaining ground on the outside. Very slowly drawing alongside Groovy, and those two now hit the top of the stretch together. The half in 44 and 2. Ogygian on the outside takes the lead. Groovy on the rail back into second by about 6. Landing Plot is now third, then Wayar, and Michael's Dancer. Ogygian leads by 3. They're at the 8th pole. Groovy on the rail is second. On the outside is Landing Plot gaining ground. Wayar is also moving up. They approach the 16th pole. Ogygian leads by 4. Then Landing Plot and Wayar, but it is Ogygian in front. Ogygian wins easily by 3. Then a photo between Landing Plot and Wayar for place and show in the 7th race. Reba Ridge Stakes. Time on the board, 1 minute 23 and 2/5 seconds.
And so Ogygian is a story on his way to be made, it appears. Right now you're looking at a live shot of Mel Studi, the trainer of Snow Chief. He'll be watching the race with us from Hollywood Park in California. Remember now that he won the Preakness after failing in the Derby, his horse that is, and then went to the Jersey Derby rather than to here. He won the Jersey Derby very impressively, thought briefly about bringing the horse here, but he had come out of the Jersey Derby with a slight injury, which is now healed up. We're going to be talking to Mel Studi after the race to get his impressions. There is perhaps, yes, the most impressive winner of the Belmont in its 117 runnings, the great Secretariat, who won here in 1973 by no less than 31 lengths. In the paddock area now, we have Charles E. Canty with 79-year-old Walt Kelly. Charles E.
But, Jim, this is one of the saltiest of the Sunshine Boys, Walter Kelly, who today saddles a very lightly raced colt named John's Treasure. Walter, you're known as a pretty crafty fellow. Why the demanding Belmont for a horse who's making his first stakes attempt?
Well, he's coming up to the race good. And I wanted to get away from old Gigi. So I said, I'll run in this race. I didn't think these were good horses. You know, outside of Ferndina, he might be good, but the rest are ordinary horses.
That's an honest answer?
I took a shot.
Tell me this, he wears a bar shoe today. That's not an everyday piece of equipment. What is it and why is he wearing it?
He's wearing it because he broke his foot last winter. 2.5 months ago, he had a broken foot. I heel nerved him, and I put the shoe on.
All right.
Holds his heels together. Seems to run all right in it.
Well, everybody on the racetrack knows Walter Kelly has got something up his sleeve and respects John's Treasure today. Good luck to you, Walter. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
All right, back to you, Jim.
Okay, well, that's the first time I've heard a trainer say he was running in the Belmont Stakes just to duck another horse, in this case, O'Geigian. Look at the odds now. Current odds, 21-1 on Bobby Forbes, 17-1 Bordeaux Bob, Parade Marshal at 17-1. Mogambo still held at 4-1, and Personal Flag at 7-1. Now the other 5 horses. John's Treasure, 5-1. Ferdinand, 4-1. Danzig at 7-1. The long shot Imperious Spirit. Rampage still the favorite here at 5-2. An interesting situation in the rain. Stopped at the moment, and the air is pleasant enough, temperature around 70 degrees, but it is still a sloppy day at Belmont Park. One of the central figures here is 72-year-old Woody Stevens. This man, believe it or not, this trainer has won this race 4 times in a row. It's a record that could stand, well, conceivably could stand forever. He's trying for 5 in a row today with his horse Danzig Connection. Jack Whitaker invites us to meet this man a little more closely.
This crinkly, animated face began life 72 years ago in Stanton, Kentucky. And along the trail of years since, it has seen all there is to see around the racetrack.
I couldn't bet not her. So everyone. Old Pepper lays here, then she...
Woody Stevens likes dogs and playing poker, but mostly he likes training thoroughbred horses that win races. And he has won more than most of his peers. At the age of 68, he began a string of improbable victories in the Belmont Stakes. His horses have won the last 4 renewals, beginning with Conquistador Cielo in 1982.
Complete control. This Belmont Stakes has the field by
The following year, it was Caveat.
3, Slew a Gold second. It's Caveat in front.
In 1984, the ill-fated Swale gave Woody his 3rd straight Belmont. And last year, the Stevens entry of Creme Fraiche and Stefan's Odyssey finished 1-2.
Well, it would be something if a person could make it 5 in a row. And, well, I feel awfully good about being lucky enough to have 5 horses to run 5 straight Belmonts, because that's very unusual, too. In my life, I've started 8 horses in the Belmont, and I've won 4, 2 seconds, and a third.
It's an amazing record and career, but one that has had its dark moments. In 1984, Woody's mother died, and he was hospitalized with pneumonia. And then his colt, Devil's Bag, the top 3-year-old in the land, had to be retired before the Triple Crown races. But then fortune smiled once again when Swale won the Kentucky Derby that year for Woody. Swale lost the Preakness, but 3 weeks later rebounded to win the Belmont. The joy would be short-lived, however, as the Pale Horseman rode by once again.
I was real pleased. A week later, I came here, and the horse dies in the yard right here in this stable. And, of course, all I could do is say, it's done, it's over, there's nothing I can do about it, but get up and try again. So naturally, I still think of those things, and how it happened and why it happened, I don't know. But you must go on.
And Woody keeps going on. He's not quite as strong as he used to be, suffering from emphysema these last 15 years, and a sleek automobile takes him from the stable to the track these days instead of a stable pony. But the twinkle still flickers in the Kentucky eyes. Does he have any goals left?
I don't really have anything in mind as far as racing. The game has been so good to me that I think everything really good has come my way sometime or other, and now there's nothing that, naturally, that I can do for a horse I haven't done before. There's nothing he can do for me.
Well, there, somewhere in that picture, the man from Midway, Kentucky, where the railroad train goes down the middle of the street, the main street, is saddling another horse. He's done it tens of thousands of times in his career. That's the owner, Henrik the Kwiatkowski, standing there talking to the jockey. Right now, Lynn Swan is up on the up on a very pleasant porch, a little balcony that looks out over the paddock area, with a man who was very much missed from the scene here today, jockey Angel Cordero, who had a serious injury a couple of months ago and is still recovering. Lynn?
Thank you, Jim. Angel, Jim has just talked about the fact that you were injured. How's your training coming along? When are you coming back?
I'm coming along very good. I'll probably be back July 13 to ride a horse that came from Puerto Rico. And probably going to be full riding in August in Saratoga.
Okay, now you know this track better than any other jockey that's out here. What are the conditions like today for this race?
Well, the track is very wet. It's carrying a lot of water on top, so it's going to be very difficult for them to ride a horse in behind other horses. They're going to have a little trouble, and they're going to come back with a lot of weight, the horses that come from behind, because they're going to pick up a lot of weight on mud and water.
How much weight do you think those horses in the back of the pack are going to pick up?
They're probably going to come back after rate 130, 31, maybe 32.
Mm-hmm. Now, your horse was Magambo that you rode prior to your injury. How do you think he'll fare in this track?
Well, he's on his home ground. He likes this track in Belmont. He's been training good. And I think he's probably going to run good because the pace is going to be slow and he's going to be close enough to save some ground in there.
Mm-hmm. With a mile-and-a-half race, is that enough time for a jockey to make a mistake early, then recover from it? In other words, is it a race for a smarter jockey?
Well, it calls for a strategy. Riders got more time to make a strategy to recompense for whatever pace they miss the first part. And it's an easier race to ride than the other two.
Why is that?
Because you got more time. In the Derby, you cannot plan anything. It's too many horses. You don't know how fast they're going to go. In the Belmont, it's a mile-and-a-half. You presume that they're going to go between 24 and 25. If they go 23 or faster, they're not going to last. So you can get an idea how fast they're going to be running. In the Derby, you don't know what's going on.
Okay, let's go back. We're going to go back to Jim, but very quickly, which horse would you like in this race?
Sentimental Favor, Magambo, Ferdinand, Rampage, and Willie Stevens' horse.
Okay, Jim?
Well, that narrows it down. He only picked 4 out of the 10 horses. Here, down in the paddock, still, the horses being prepared. There's Bobby Forbes, number 1. He's owned by Bob Brennan, the man from New Jersey. Number 2, there goes number 2, Bordeaux Bob. You saw him walking by. There's the number 3 stall. That's Parade Marshall. Moving along, we should have Mogambo next in stall number 4. He's not there. There's Woody Stevens standing there, I believe. As we move along, number 5, Personal Flag, is back behind some of his connections. Number 6 will be John's Treasure. That's Walt Kelly's horse. You can see the rain has started to fall again from the umbrellas in back of the paddock. Right now, Charlesy is with Charlie Whittingham.
I had Charlie Whittingham by the arm. He's just gone back in to adjust Ferdinand and getting ready for Bill Shoemaker to tack him up. And they're about to lead the horses out, and he's in behind me. He's going to put Bill Shoemaker up now, so we'll have to postpone this interview, Jim, for just a few minutes.
Okay, Charlesy, thank you very much. Mel Studi, do you hear me out in California?
I sure can, Jim. Everything's fine. There's an airplane coming over right now, but I can hear you fine.
It's a gorgeous day out there, but you know what the conditions are here by now. What does that mean for this race as far as you're concerned, and who might you favor?
I would think it would help the speed horses quite a bit. They'll not be carrying near as much weight as Angel said, and they're going to be throwing the mud on the other horses.
Okay, tell us one more time why you went to the Jersey Derby and why you didn't come to the Belmont.
The Jersey Derby was a shorter race. We had lost the Kentucky Derby. There was no Triple Crown for us. The other race was $1 million, and we're trying to make this horse one of the wealthiest horses of all time.
Okay, Mel, we'll be talking to you. We certainly hope after the race to get your impressions of how it is run. The horse is now getting ready to go out. Number 10 is the favorite in the race. That is Rampage with Pat Day aboard. So let's take a break, and then we'll be coming back for the 118th running of the oldest of America's Triple Crown Classics, the Belmont Stakes in New York.
It's very unlikely that we'll ever see another win in this race like the one by the great Secretariat back in 1973 when that champion horse won by 31 lengths. Let's go back to Belmont, Long Island, New York.
And now the horses are just coming onto the track. High above the racetrack, he'll be calling the race for us, is Marshall Cassidy, but right now he's about to introduce the ceremonial playing here of the sidewalks of New York. Marshall?
Ladies and gentlemen, the horses are on the track for the Belmont Stakes. And now, performed by the Queen's Symphony Orchestra, the Sidewalks of New York.
The first post parade in the history of American racing took place in this Belmont Stakes in the year 1880. Nowadays, of course, every race on every program gets a post parade. Number 1 is Bobby Forbes, ridden by Vince Brashali out of Maryland. He has won in the mud. He won the General George Stakes at Pimlico in this kind of going, but was disqualified from first place. 4th in the Jersey Derby behind Snow Chief. Likes to eat peppermints, this guy. Number 2, another long shot, is Bordeaux Bob. He won the Count Fleet in the mud at Aqueduct in the month of January of this year. Was claimed for $37,500 earlier in his career. Number 3 from the Green Tree Stable, which is attempting to win its 5th Belmont Stakes, is Parade Marshal. He was a good third to Danzig Connection 13 days ago in the Peter Van Stakes. Could have a chance. Number 4, one of the favorites here, is Mogambo, owned by Peter Brandt, trained by Leroy Jolly. Jockey Jose Santos is the leading rider at Belmont right now. He won the Champagne Stakes here last fall on this track, however, has been very inconsistent since then. Most recently was a good second to Snow Chief in the Jersey Derby. Number 5, Personal Flag, was unraced as a 2-year-old, but now has won 3 races in a row, the last by 5.5 lengths. George Velasquez up. Number 6, John's Treasure, that's old Walt Kelly's horse, ridden by the great Lafitte Pinkai Jr. He also was unraced as a 2-year-old. Number 7, the Kentucky Derby winner, Ferdinand, second in the Preakness Stakes to Snow Chief, Bill Shoemaker up. You know that story by now. And there is the man at age 54, still riding on in perhaps the greatest career of any jockeys in the history of the American turf. Number 8 is Woody Stevens' horse, Danzig Connection, with another top rider, Chris McCarron, in from California. He was third in the mud in an allowance race here last August. That's his one appearance in this kind of conditions. Danzig Connection won his first stakes race, though, just 13 days ago here in the Peter Pan. Number 9, long shot Imperious Spirit, was second in the California Derby to Vernon Castle, but recently finished no better than 7th in the Will Rogers at Hollywood Park, but his connections think he has a shot, and Ruben Hernandez is riding him. Number 10, the favorite in the race, and that's something of a surprise, is Rampage, winner of the Arkansas Derby in extremely fast time on a track very much like this one, on a sloppy track. Rampage, ridden by Pat Day. He has been unraced since he had a very difficult trip in the Kentucky Derby. Can he win with that long a layoff? Well, no horse has in the Belmont Stakes in more than 30 years. By the way, Rampage was bought at auction for $18,000 because he had a turned-out rear hoop despite his great breeding. So it's almost time for the race. Let's take another break. We'll be back. Here's a man who rode in the Belmont Stakes 5 times, was never worse than 4th, and won with his very first mount in the race, Celtic Ash, Bill Hartack, of course. Bill, pretty tough for you to call under these weather conditions, but how do you see the race?
Well, Jim, the biggest factor is a mile and a half. If you have a horse in here that can't go a mile and a half, he doesn't have any chance at all. So you really, no matter what you do on a horse like that, it's not going to pay off. You're going to come up lacking. And that's one of the reasons why I like Ferdinand. I think he can go a mile and a half. His only difficulty is perhaps the mud. Not so much the footing. The footing is firm. But that dirt hitting a horse in the face, a young horse that's not used to it, could create a vision problem. You know, they don't wear goggles like jockeys do. They do pick up weight coming from behind, so that could be a factor against him. Rampage, again, is another horse that I think loves the distance of ground, likes the mud, has run well in the mud, but 5-week layup, it'd be a great, tremendous training job if he wins, and he has a chance. To me, a long shot in the race that could show up really nice, Parade Marshal. I like the way he looked in a paddock. He's been primed for this race. I look for a surprising performance out of him.
And of course, we don't know that Ferdinand can't run in the mud. He's never run in it.
That's true, but the factor that Bill Shoemaker came up, that dirt in the face, a horse will tend not to extend himself if he's blinded, if he's not used to it. And a young horse is like this, it could affect him.
Or it could affect any of the others, of course. Okay, now the favorite in the betting, remember, and something of a surprise, is Rampage, the winner of the Arkansas Derby. That's his jockey, of course, Pat Day, who both of them come out of the Southwest. We talked to Pat Day a little bit earlier and talked to him about his chances in this kind of going.
Well, it certainly won't hurt him, whereas it might hurt some of the others. He won the Arkansas Derby on a very, very sloppy racetrack. I mean, it come a downpour that afternoon at Oakon, and he handled the footing very good. The slop coming back in his face, I was a little concerned about that. You know, a lot of times a horse, the first time they run into it, don't really like it, and consequently they don't run well. But he done everything right that afternoon, handled the racetrack well, and so I don't think that if it rains that the slop, the bad racetrack, would affect him any.
Back on horseback again is Charles E. Canny. Charlesy, what is the scene out there now?
The horses are approaching the starting gate. It is still very sloppy, and in only a few moments we'll find out whether Ferdinand likes the mud or not. There's an old adage on the racetrack: if a horse likes the mud, he needs no help. If he doesn't like the mud, there's no help for him. We'll know in about 2.5 minutes. Jim?
Well, again, we have 3 horses in here trained by men in their 70s. If only Henry Clark were up for Maryland with a horse in the race at age 80, we'd have a real meeting of Horse Trainers Hall of Fame at the summit. But now they're moving into the starting gate. You saw number 1, Bobby Forbes, going in. We have a microphone, by the way, on starter Frank Calvareach. You'll be hearing him as they go into the starting gate. 10 horses. Nobody was scratched, remember. Number 5 there is Personal Flag, owned by Ogden Phipps. Let's go up now to Marshall Cassidy. Marshall?
Okay, Jim. We have a few horses still to go into the gate. See behind the gate now, Ferdinand, winner of the Kentucky Derby, as John's Treasure is being loaded. Here's some of the action as they load this horse into the gate. It takes several assistant starters to do that, but it is successful. Ferdinand now goes in. There's Woody's horse. Danzig Connection. Spirit. Winner of the Arkansas Derby in the slot. Rampage about to go in. Okay. They're all in line. It is now post time. They're all in line. And they're off. Mogambo is going for the lead. Surprisingly, on the outside, there goes a speed horse also. Danzig Connection has moved into second. Then it's Imperious Spirit. John's Treasure on the inside. Then Ferdinand between horses. Again on the inside, Bobby Forbes. On the outside is Rampage. Then Parade Marshal, Personal Flag. And Bordeaux Bob on the rail is in 10th. They enter the clubhouse turn. We'll soon see the quarter time for this race. 23-1. It is a fast pace. Mogambo has the lead by a bit more than a length, and it's Danzig Connection second by about 4. Then John's Treasure is third on the rail. On the outside, Imperious Spirit is fourth, gaining a bit. About a length to Ferdinand, with Shoemaker on the rail, moving up also. The outside is Parade Marshal, about 3 to Bobby Forbes. Then Rampage, Bordeaux Bob, and a Personal Flag is now 10th. They're on to the backstretch, the half in 47-4. The pace has eased a bit. But Mogambo continues to lead by a bit more than a length. Danzig Connection on the outside is second to by a length. Ferdinand on the rail is in third. Danzig Connection is gaining ground on the outside, only a half off of Mogambo. Also right there is John's Treasure alongside Ferdinand. On the outside again is Parade Marshal in fifth. Then Imperious Spirit, Bobby Forbes, Bordeaux Bob, Rampage, and Personal Flag. 3/4, 12-4. The pace is still slowing as Danzig Connection gains on the outside of Mogambo. They are now heads apart. Right behind them on the rail is Ferdinand with Shoemaker. Danzig Connection on the outside. Mogambo on the rail. Now it's Danzig Connection taking the lead. Mogambo is second by a half. Now Ferdinand has moved to the outside. Ferdinand is now taking second. Gaining ground farther out, John's Treasure. They round the far turn. The mile 38-1. Danzig Connection, Ferdinand, John's Treasure vying for the lead. Mogambo is back into fourth as they approach the top of the stretch. Danzig Connection has a neck in front. On the outside, Ferdinand and John's Treasure, they enter the stretch. Danzig Connection still leads narrowly. Ferdinand on the outside, challenging that lead. Farther out is John's Treasure. On the rail is Personal Flag moving into fourth as Danzig Connection now draws clear. This is going to be the fifth Belmont for Woody Stevens. John's Treasure on the outside of Ferdinand. Danzig Connection has the lead. It is Danzig Connection winning by a length and a half. Congratulations, Woody Stevens. Then a photo for place and show between John's Treasure and Ferdinand. Personal Flag was fourth in the 8th race, the Belmont Stakes here in New York. The time on the board, 2 minutes, 29 and 4/5 seconds. Back to you, Jim McKinnon.
Unbelievable. That's the only word for it. Woody Stevens has won his 5th Belmont Stakes in a row at age 72. That's de Kwiatkowski, Henrik de Kwiatkowski, the owner, hugging Woody. It's something that has never happened in the history of the American turf, really. The man started this streak at age 68 at a time when he was talking about retiring. Now, my goodness, he may go on forever. 5 Belmonts in a row. For a trainer to even have 5 horses run in 5 Belmonts in a row would be an achievement. To win 5 in a row, well, you've seen it happen. The rider, Chris McKinnon.